meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Here.
Councilman McGraw.
Here.
Councilman McPartlin.
Here.
Councilman Weber.
Here.
Supervisor Syed.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Councilman McPartlin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're now going to move on to approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from the regular town board meeting of April 30th, 2019. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any changes or comments to these minutes? Okay, with no changes or comments, all those in favor signified by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And those minutes are approved. We're going to move on to our presentation section. First, we're going to begin with a presentation by Mega on community choice aggregation.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm Louise Nava. I'm the CCA project leader for the Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Can you all hear me with that? Okay, great. So just a quick introduction of MEGA. The Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance is a not-for-profit local development corporation, and we've been working in New York State for 20 years, bringing municipalities together to reduce the cost of access to electricity, natural gas, hydroelectric, solar, and other energy opportunities. We have 300 participants across New York State, including half of New York's counties. And now we're starting to look at how we can use these same models to serve the residents of the municipalities that we work with. So really quickly, before we talk about community choice aggregation, I want to make sure we're all on the same page with how electricity is purchased. And when you buy electricity, you pay for two main things. You pay for delivery, and you pay that to National Grid, no matter who you are, if you live in the town of Niskayuna. And National Grid, that cost covers the actual physical maintenance of the infrastructure to recover during an outage and do the maintenance. Then the second part of your bill is for supply. And back in the 90s, New York State, you no longer had to buy your electric supply from the same company that delivered your electricity. And so many people in your community and across New York State choose to use someone other than their delivery company. So CCA is really looking to find a new default other than National Grid that might offer benefits beyond what the utility.
And you're talking really loud for inside, which is super awesome, but no
You
one.
can't hear you.
Well, the people.
Oh,
on
you're on the TV.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. That's why I asked you. Great. Is that now too loud? No. Okay. Okay. So a little background. New York State is in the process of what's called reforming the energy vision. So back in 2014, we looked at our infrastructure in New York State and we said all of it's aging and it's aging at about the same time and it's going to be really expensive to fix it. So how do we address this issue? We need to look at modernizing our grid in a reliable, affordable, and resilient way. And one of the only ways we're going to be able to do that is if our constituents, if people like you and I who are the ratepayers, are empowered and engaged participants in this conversation. And our community choice aggregation. So New York has been having a conversation about CCA since 2014. And since April of 2016, it's been possible for municipalities like yours to participate in the program. So what is CCA? Community choice aggregation allows local governments to aggregate the electricity and natural gas accounts of your residents and small businesses within your jurisdiction. So at the end of the day, this is a bulk purchasing program to meet the needs that you set out. Cities, towns, and villages are authorized to participate in this program, and counties can facilitate but cannot actually have the authority to do this program. And most importantly, local governments can work together to drive the value. So there are a couple rules on how municipalities work together. This map demonstrates those. So there's two main rules. You can be in the same group if you have the same utility territory. So in this case, it's National Grid. That's that kind of greeny, bad colored background there. And then the second thing is you have to be in the same New York State independent system operator load zone. And that's just the blue line. And that's how we wholesale power in New York State. So in this case, it's the balance of it's 9 counties and the balance of 3 others. So there are many possibilities of who can work together. And in Mega's model, you don't even necessarily have to know who those municipalities are, but in this case, there are a number that are already moving forward. And we can talk about who those are in a minute. So why CCA? First and foremost, better rates. So we use bulk purchasing model and competition to offer competitive rates and stable prices. That's the printable thing. What I didn't anticipate when we started this program was how important the consumer protection piece would be. So there are a lot of predatory practices in the energy world right now. Some of you may be aware of them. And CCA starts a community conversation about our energy choices, and it really empowers and informs consumers so they understand when those door knockers come or those people call during dinner or when they get offered a rate, they know what kind of questions to ask. And so we're seeing this play out right now in our other aggregations when people call us and they say, just wanted you to know, someone came to my door and I told them to go away. I told them I knew what I should be paying and that was too much. So we're really proud about that. And that's really it's really empowering people and it's giving them protection against those predatory marketers. And then last but not least at all, this is an opportunity for you to really take control of the energy options. You no longer have to just say, okay, National Grid, that's what we want to use. You can say, we want access to renewable electricity. We want that electricity come from local sources. You can make value decisions based on the interests of your constituents in your community. So that's new and very exciting. The most important thing about CCA and the reason it works is the opt-out model. So the way CCA works, all automatically eligible customers are participating unless they opt out. So everyone's in unless they choose to opt out. That's why it works. Now, we honor existing choices. So if someone has already gone with a third-party supplier, if they've said, I want to stay with National Grid, I know that I'm putting a block on my account, they're not automatically eligible to participate. They can join the program, but the assumption is that they made a choice, we need to honor that. So that's key. But because it's an opt-out model, we really heavily focus on the opt-out process, right? So we want to make sure that your constituents have every opportunity to not participate in the program so they feel not put upon. So a couple ways we do that. Education, 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 okay? If they know this is going to happen to them or happen for them, they're less likely to freak out or think something happened wrong. There's 2 distinct periods of education, and we'll talk about where those are in a minute. And the state is the state is watching us very closely and making sure that we have complied with those education requirements. We have the first one education period, for example, is 60 days, and we have to show that we've done multiple types of education. So we have to do it in person, it has to be on the news, the radio, what have you. The way the process actually works is there's an opt-out letter that goes out in the mail to every one of your automatically eligible participants. When they get that letter, it will tell them the rate, the term, the supply choice, the supplier, and it will tell them how not to participate. It will also compare it to what they've been paying previously. When they get that letter, they have 30 days to call us, to call the supplier, to call you, to talk to their neighbors and determine if they want to participate in the program. During that period, if they opt out, they stay with National Grid. At any time after that period, they can opt out and return to the utility. The only difference being they will switch to the CCA for whatever period of time and then go back. So there's really no worry about them getting trapped or stuck. There's no fees like there are in a lot of contracts. So again, this is increasing choice. So again, let's just talk about some of those choices. So first is the opt-out. This is the critical one for the people, you will have them, constituents that are just automatically opposed to the program. So they can opt out and stay with National Grid or return to National Grid at any time. We also have found in our municipalities that opting in is really important. So again, we have this conversation about electric. People have never looked at their bill before. They look at their bill and they say, oh my, I'm not even with National Grid and I thought I was, and I'm paying 4 times too much. I'd like to opt into the program, please. So that's another option that people have been using in our existing program. And then there is also the option if the municipality chooses 100% renewable and your constituents don't like that, they can opt down to save more money. If you don't choose 100% renewable, they can opt up if that's their value set. So again, the whole point is to increase choice. And finally, this is a highly regulated program. So New York State is watching and they are checking. We have to check boxes all along. A few things that we have to provide, and Mega has all these as templates: implementation plan, and that really shows the education and outreach that we've accomplished, as well as that opt-out letter. Data protection plan. We have to make sure that none of your constituents' data are shared. So Mega had to go through a huge process of making sure that our infrastructure and we're trained, all of those things. And then you obviously have to pass a local law, which I know you know. So anyway, there are lots of different places in this process that we're being watched and making sure that we're checking our boxes. This is in the inside of your little brochure that you have, and if anyone in the audience wants one, please let me know. This shows the actual steps for a CCA. This is Mega's model. So the way we run the program is asking folks to make a decision about who their CCA administrator is. That's what Mega does, and there are some others in New York State that act in that role as well. And the reason we do that is because the very next step, educating the public, requires whomever it is to start expending resources on your behalf. So what that handshake agreement is, it outlines our expectations of ourselves and of you. And it also says, well, you do not have to do CCA. If you do CCA, you do so with Mega. So from step 1 through step 5, it's an exploration. At step 5, it becomes real. So step 2, we educate the public. And we believe in doing that, before a local law. This is part of education, just so you can get a feel for your constituents and what they're going to think about this program. At step 3, we make sure we have all those municipalities that are participating in an aggregation together, right? We want to have 40,000 households stop at step 3, ready to go forward together. And the reason is step 4, we want to go out into the marketplace with as much clout as we can, right? We want to drive those prices down. We want to be as attractive as possible. And Mega's experience is that 40,000 is about the right number. So then we go out to bid, we come back to you, we say, here's what the suppliers were, here's what they offered for price, here's the term. We make a recommendation and we say, do you want to participate? So that is when it gets serious. That's when the town has to decide, I want to offer this to my constituents or I don't. If you say yes, then we start over with more education of the public before we do the opt-out period, and then they each get a decision. And then after that 30 days, the savings begin and they're in the program. So again, it's an exploration from steps 1 through steps 5. And then at that point, it's real. So I know it's a lot of material. I'm going to pause and ask for your questions if that's appropriate.
Hi. My question regards HEAP. Are people who get HEAP still HEAP eligible? And also budget plans. I know some people choose budget plans, so their amount stays consistent throughout the year. Does this affect budget plans?
Sure. So HEAP actually falls into this second bucket here of customers with a block on their account. So the utilities have been required by New York State to put blocks on all HEAP eligible, not even eligible because they don't know who's eligible, but HEAP enrolled customers. And the reason for that is they have to have a guaranteed savings product. So they can't lose a penny. So they're not automatically included. There is not a CCA yet in New York that's actually serving HEAP enrolled customers. But I can tell you we're working to figure out how to do that. It's a little complicated. To the second part of your question, yes, budget billing is very popular. 30% of the participants in our first aggregation are on budget billing, so we know how popular that is. And this program does work with budget billing. So we work with the utility. I wouldn't say it's perfectly seamless, but the utility and the supplier, we work it out with them.
Okay, thank you. So to follow up, if somebody was part of this community choice aggregation and they decided that they wanted to apply for HEAP, would that be difficult, or would that be something that the town would have to walk them through, or your company would have to walk them through? Sure.
So it wouldn't be any different. It wouldn't be any different if they were with the CCA than it was if they were with National Grid. The only difference is when we push go on the program, if they're in the HEAP program, they're actually not eligible automatically to participate. Does that make sense, that distinction?
No,
okay.
It makes complete sense.
And we're always happy to help with any customer's questions. We have a helpline which people call all the time, all day long and night long.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
How many other municipalities do you have right now?
Sure. In the capital region or
Yeah,
in
the
our,
capital region?
sure. So let's go to this graphic. So we have 2 municipalities that have signed the handshake agreement, the city of Saratoga Springs and the town of New Scotland. And we have 2 more who have it on their agendas to consider, and we expect to sign in the next month, and that will get us to 30,000 households. And remember, I was saying we're looking to be at 40,000 by step 3. And then my colleague is at another municipality tonight. There are a couple municipalities in Warren County that are considering this, and there are a few more presentations with larger municipalities in the capital region this month as well, or next month, I guess, August.
And tell me about the opt-out is the only way to do it. Was that a requirement that the state put on this for you to get municipalities involved in this? Or is this what you're using to try to get as many people to participate?
Yeah, no, so this is the design of CCA that the state uses. And the reason is because we have an opt-in now. So that's when you have National Grid and you say, it's an opt-in now. So there are third-party suppliers out there, but everyone has to choose to go to them. And what the state did an analysis, and it said, residents aren't saving enough money. They're not carefully reading the contracts. There's a lot of predatory practices. How can we address all of that? And the way we can address all of that is pull them together to increase their buying power and hire someone else to do the contract negotiation. And so that's why it's an opt-out model, because that's the way to drive the benefit.
And even when the residents get involved in this program, they have choices even beyond that, as you said. They
Correct.
can pick renewables or local energy sources and that sort of thing. So there's even more choice beyond just getting into the program.
Absolutely. And I can tell you it's really interesting. So in the aggregation that we have in the southern tier, folks, their opt-out period was the mid-May through mid-June. And then in July, they were switched and they'll get their first bill in August. We've already had people that opted out opting back in. I mean, people are, they can make choices as freely as they would like.
And do you see with most people, if they're just staying with National Grid right now, there's going to be savings for them?
If they're staying
If
with,
let's say they're with National Grid right
Sure.
now, right? They haven't picked an energy supplier.
sure.
Okay. And they're going to get involved in this program. Would there be savings for them on their electric bill?
Sure. So no one has a crystal ball, right? But the way that we answer this question is this graph. So I took the numbers off because it's a different part of the state and I didn't want you to focus on the numbers because they're not exactly relevant for you, but the concept applies. So this is the actual graph from the southern tier. So the orange line is the CCA price that the contracts were signed for, fixed rate. The blue line is the variable utility price. And so the orange line is going forward and the utility line is looking backward. So all we can do is look back at the average price and see if we can beat the average price, which we did. So we beat the previous year average and we beat the previous 5-year average. And so that's what made municipalities comfortable offering the opportunity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When we first began this conversation with Jeff, who really educated us, and that's probably why we don't have as many questions.
Great.
We've spent months, a year now with him really explaining all of this to us. I know Albany was they were out there. They were kind of the lead dog in all of this. Where are they in this? And do you even know? I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
I don't know where Albany is right now exactly. And I think, the answer about low income, I think is one of the things that if I were Albany, I would want to hear a slightly different answer. I would want to say, this is how I can serve. I mean, that's how I feel about it as
Sure.
an administrator.
Yep.
I wouldn't want such a huge part of my population not automatically included, and perhaps the part of my population that I want to serve most.
It needs most.
Serving. And so I haven't followed up with them recently. There's also some turnover right now that looks like it will be happening with, political turnover. And so it may or may not be their moment. I know that there will be some investigation of that, but I can guarantee you that with the conversations that we've been having, the presentations we're having, and the sort of general feel of municipalities, we have enough we have enough interest without someone as large as Albany to have the market clout to drive the same kind of value that we did in our first aggregation.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yes, and I agree. I've seen Jeff's presentation. It's very good.
Excellent. I know.
It's like he's a professor or something.
I had a question about step 2.
Sure.
Typically, how long does it take a municipality to get through that step?
So we have to do 60 days. There's no short changing it. As a matter of fact, the state will yell at you and say, not long enough. And that's again, because you understand, you put things out and then your residents come and they say, we didn't know that was happening. And so the idea is you need to get it out, have it out, try multiple media and get people the opportunity to ask questions. Now, with that said, the most challenging part of that step is that we don't know the price. So we're educating your constituents on the concept. And so the reason there is this 5A is because that is when we come back and we can say, remember that thing we were talking about that was theoretical? Now we know the price, and now we know the source, and now we know the term. So, but we still need to spend that 60 days minimum doing that education. And again, I will say, if I've learned anything with the last group of municipalities, I would like municipalities in this region who are much more closely associated and have the same kind of press contacts to sync that education a little bit more, because I think it will be more impactful than some of the things that happened in the southern tier.
And typically, what percentage of citizens do opt out?
So the national average is 10%. I think it's a little too early for us to see what our average is yet. We'll know once we actually have our first bill how many are gone. So we'll know in a couple more weeks. But there are 7 states that have CCA, and that average is 10%. Westchester, which is the only CCA that's been up and operational and on their second contract, they've had a significantly lower opt-out percent than that.
This was great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And my contact information is on the inside of that brochure, my cell phone and email, so feel free to use it at any time.
Thank you.
Should this stay on?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
I don't think so. Where's Dennis? Do you need the projector? No. Okay. And next, we have a presentation by the town historian, Dr. Dennis Brennan, on the biannual historian's report.
Thank you. Appreciate having us brief time to talk about this report. Next time I'll have PowerPoint. Okay. Get some images up there, make it look nicer. Okay, whatever. At any rate, given the passage of the resolution last month, I did put together the first of the semi-annual reports that were requested. And I'll walk away from the mic for a second just to hand out copies.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
All right, without PowerPoint, I don't want to take a lot of time to go through this, but I thought I would hit just a few of the high points, or what I think might have been high points about this first report. I think perhaps the most significant thing that happened in the first half of the year is finally getting together this advisory committee, which was approved last time. I have been meeting with an ad hoc committee since February, and we're continuing to meet. And at our last 2 meetings now, we've been working on trying to put together a system for identifying people who would be interested in joining the committee. I have put together, communicated through the media and through the town website, and have contacted a number of people. And right now I have 12. I think I just sent the list back to you today. 12 people who have expressed interest, live in Niskayuna, have reasons why they want to work on Niskayuna history and are willing to commit to a certain term, 1, 2, or 3 years. So hopefully, by the next meeting, we'll be able to officially appoint them and really get the committee moving along. We did, as you'll see here, we did work at putting together a draft mission statement and some draft goals for the committee. Draft because the final decision about the mission statement would be something to take up with the committee itself once it meets, but mission statement is pretty simple and direct. The Niskayuna Historical Advisory Committee supports the town historian's efforts to research, communicate, preserve, and advocate the distinct history of the town of Niskayuna. That pretty much says it all. Gets into a lot more detail. Goals for the committee, obviously, collect, interpret, use information accurately, provide reports, provide means of advancing Niskayuna history to lots of different people, whether it's the school or meetings at the town board or a meeting at the town hall, but moving forward on doing things like that. I have continued to work on reorganizing the files down in the basement, which are, well, they're being reorganized, let's put it that way. One of the first things I wanted to do was try to get all of the old Grand Boulevard bulletins and Niskayuna bulletins. Grand Boulevard was first published in 1926 to 1958, and then the Niskayuna Bulletin until 1976. We don't have many of the Grand Boulevard bulletins, but I went through, they were in 5 or 6 different boxes, so I sorted them out, and so at least we know now what we have. There are some very interesting articles in those. I mean, this is, you know, the first draft of history, as it were, especially for a place like Grand Boulevard, which is really, you know, a second birth for Niskayuna in a sense. You know, so, yeah, we go back to 1809 or we go back before 1809, but when Niskayuna transformed itself into a residential community, it really is the Grand Boulevard Association and the building of the Grand Boulevard area that made that possible. So I think it'll be interesting to find more of them. I was at the Schenectady County Library the other day, and they say they have them, but they're in storage somewhere, so they're going to have to find them and deliver them. They think they have them, but they won't know until they actually go and find out what they do have. At any rate, I've identified what we have and what we don't have. As I was going through some of them, I did find historical articles, many of them by Lloyd Brinkman, many of them which reappear in his book. At any rate, I made a list of those articles as I found them, just to have an idea of what we have available. And I should mention, thanks to the town clerk's office, they did find a large filing cabinet that I can use to organize the files better than in these cardboard boxes. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. One other thing I think was very important was sort of the rediscovery of this 1985 historic preservation inventory of 74 structures, buildings in Niskayuna that have historic significance, and 1 cemetery. And it's quite a collection, quite a nice collection. And again, thank you to Laura Robertson for getting somebody to PDF it, so it's all digitized now and can be looked at directly. It's got a tremendous amount of information about a lot of different historic buildings in Niskayuna. And I think if I had my way with this historical committee, one of the things I'd like to try to work on is updating that inventory, updating the information, updating the pictures. All these pictures that they have are, some of them are not very good. They're all black and white, but we could update the inventory and perhaps expand it, find out whether other places in the town should be on that listing. The purpose of the inventory was supposedly to provide a database for future planning, identify significant structures for inclusion in national registries, encourage public awareness of Niskayuna's history, and to develop a local historical preservation ordinance to designate and protect historic properties. Largely, most of that hasn't been accomplished, but I think it's something we need to perhaps look forward to. I've talked to John Shearer up at Clifton Park, the town historian at Clifton Park, and a number of other local town historians who do have preservation commissions or preservation committees. And I do think it's another thing that perhaps we should look at investigating, not necessarily establishing it, but let's find out what the pitfalls are, what the positives, the pros and cons are, and maybe we should consider establishing a committee like that so we can continue to protect the historic interests, the historic architectural and cultural artifacts of our town. Let's see, I attended a the Association of Public Historians of New York State. We're in District 5. Attended a meeting in April with them, and it was nice to meet with several other town historians and get an idea of what they were doing with their committees. I also met with Bill Buell, who's now the county historian. Had a sort of an informal get-together with many of the county, town, and village historians, just to get to know one another and begin the process of perhaps working closer together and cooperating with one another in developing programs and in working on Schenectady County and local history. One of my great pleasures, and I put it in here, was meeting with Grace Jorgensen. She is quite a woman, quite a person. She's writing a book, and she wanted some more information about Bellevue Hospital, which I did actually find in some of those old Niskayuna bulletins. She was, I tell the story here, and I think it's worth repeating. In 1947, she attended Union College and had a front page article in the Union Concordiensis, the student newspaper, why women should be allowed to go to Union College. It didn't work, but she was obviously ahead of her time. In any case, that's sort of the high points for this first half of the year. I'm looking forward to moving forward in the second half of the year, and thank you for your attention. If anybody has any questions, please.
Sure, I just have one question. We've talked about it in the past. I know when we renamed the building after our previous supervisor, I think the expectation was that we were going to be able to put up some sort of plaque about his contributions. I know some members of your ad hoc committee have also expressed an interest in having some sort of display case out there of Ed Riley's papers, Ed Riley's artifacts in some way. Is that a project that this group is pursuing at all? It just seems a natural fit.
I could say it's on a back burner at the moment. I did talk to his daughter about it, and she was going to talk to the family and get back to me about what they would like to contribute to it. We don't have, I suspect Ed Riley has an awful lot more, his family has an awful lot more material in his possession than we have. But she was going to talk to the family and get back to me. So yes, it is a project. It's just not, it's hanging fire, I guess you could say, at this moment.
Will the group have the ability to come up with whatever could be a few sentences for a plaque inside the building?
Sure, we can do that.
Okay.
Who was working on the plaque?
I think it was something that when we named the building, a number of the folks who were all part of making that suggestion, I think that was their expectation, was that we would have something inside who told folks who Ed Riley was. Well, we all know that
Yeah.
in the not too distant future, I'm sure there will be a lot of people who come here and won't know who that is.
For a historian, I should hesitate to admit to this, but my memory is a little fuzzy. But when I talked to his daughter, she mentioned somebody who was working on the plaque, and I'll have to get back.
I don't think he was actually working on it. I think he was suggesting it. It was the gentleman who had written the letter to the editor, Al, his last name.
Because we talked about when the
But he was
plaque
not
goes-
working on the plaque. I think he just,
when the plaque goes up, we'd have this display at the same time. Yeah.
great.
But anything else?
Yeah, it was Al Majid, so I
Al
can
Majid,
connect the
thank
two of you.
Okay. Yeah, right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This is really fascinating, actually.
We're now going to proceed to privilege of the floor. Privilege of the floor is now open. If anyone would like to speak, please approach the lectern, state your name and address for the record.
Amy Hawansky, 2833 Whitmire Drive. During the last several months, some residents on Whitmire Drive have not been getting their garbage picked up. In fact, it happened 5 out of 15 times. When we called to find out what had happened, the waste removal company told us to continue to leave the cans out by the street, and the company would send the trucks back over to us again. But each time, days would go by before the garbage was removed. You may think that this has nothing to do with the town. However, when we called the disposal company yet again, we were told that the garbage trucks have been having a difficult time picking up our garbage because the trucks did not have enough room at the end of our dead-end street to turn around, because many of the construction and subcontractor employee vehicles at the wastewater treatment facility were blocking the turnaround space. This was news to us as to why our garbage was not getting picked up. The narrowness of the street and the lack of turnaround space at the dead end prevented the trucks from coming down our street to get our garbage. Supervisors at the disposal company talked with town employees in the engineering department and were told that there was nothing the town could do about the situation. Meanwhile, the garbage festered by the roadside for days until the disposal company could change their normal scheduled routine and send over a specific smaller truck just for the people on our street. Over the past few months, this has happened 5 out of 15 weeks, meaning that 1/3 of the time our garbage was not properly picked up. Besides being a public health concern with garbage rotting in cans on the roadside for week after week, it is also yet another way in which the residents on Whitmire Drive have had our lives disrupted by the ongoing construction and events at the wastewater treatment facility. These seemingly small, overlooked details of the wastewater treatment facility upgrades are not just small details to the residents. Many of our issues could have been avoided if the town had put the project through the planning committee and the zoning committee. The town, however, chose not to do that and instead claimed that as a town entity, they are exempt from such protocols. Time and again, board members have countered with the statement that Niskayuna was mandated to make these upgrades at the facility, as if the mandate erases the justness of our concerns. While the town was mandated to make certain upgrades, it was not mandated to create the extensive facility that board members chose to allow. A few months ago, there was a fire situation at the facility during which certain equipment was damaged. At a previous meeting, I raised concerns about this damage. Councilwoman McGraw immediately had the head of the Sewer and Water Department, Matt Yetto, come to the podium to rebut my statements. He claimed that there was no fire during that time and that my accusations were baseless and outrageous. However, later at a finance committee meeting, Attorney Briggs discussed the damage, explaining that a full assessment still had to be done by townspeople and by the insurance company's representative inspectors, and that the cost of damage repair could be anywhere from $1 to $6 million. Privilege of the floor is not a time for employees to rebut comments by townspeople. It is a time for residents to express their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
Good evening. My name is John Lemelin. I live at 1106 Glen Meadow Court. Thank you for your time tonight. I'll keep my comments brief. I just want to do a quick follow-up on my testimony. I came in about a month ago. I talked about my background and the fact that I've been a resident for almost 20 years, that I love Niskayuna, and I do, by the way, appreciate what you guys do for the town. And also the fact that I was just sickened by some of the events in the last couple elections, including the anonymous flyers. So at that time, six or 7 weeks ago, I had made 3 suggestions: strengthen our ethics code and enforcement to make it clear that those types of actions are not considered ethical by this town, strengthen our town code to make it clear that those types of anonymous flyers and reprehensible behavior is actually illegal, and then ask for law enforcement to investigate the Facebook hack that I think is disgusting. So now, full disclosure, I'm retired and I have time on my hands, so I'm reading things and learning things, but I also genuinely want to help. in regards to ethics, which is the one area I was able to take a look at a little bit since we met. I've looked at the Niskayuna Code of Ethics and the guidelines you have for your ethics board. I've looked at the Schenectady County ethics procedures, their ethics board and their ethics code. I've looked at Colony. I've looked at some of the New York State ethical guidance through their joint committee on ethical standards. I've looked at Article 18 of the New York General Municipal Code. I'm talking to Paul now, Section 73 and 74 of the Public Officers Code and the Hatch Act. So there's a lot of guidance out there about how we as a municipality can have ethics and have procedures and policies that enforce them. I think there's a lot of things we can do, a lot of ideas and a lot of things maybe that we can do a little better, and I'd like to help. And I welcome your response to my earlier suggestions. Thank you.
John,
Yes.
I took what you said very seriously. The supervisor and I did discuss it, I think, the very next day. We are trying to figure out how best to move forward. The supervisor has suggested a non-binding resolution, but we are talking to the attorney about that. So, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open.
Hi, my name is Katie Chow. My address is 109 Deanna Court. I'm here on behalf of Progressive Schenectady to follow up on the inquiry into the Facebook post from the Niskayuna Progressive Action Committee, administered by Denise Murphy McGraw, which falsely accused our group of engaging in anonymous postcarding. This is the third time we have been before the board to ask that this matter be addressed. It is unfortunate that it has taken this long to resolve who it was that created and paid for the post that was clearly meant to impugn the credibility and reputation of our group. It is also unfortunate that the town board continues to overlook a pattern of alarming behavior from Denise Murphy McGraw. This inaction emboldens Ms. McGraw to continue her dangerous and misleading assaults on the reputation of those whose views are not aligned with hers. While I will not address her most recent post implying the nefarious actions of another community activist, I am certainly here to address her implications that my teenage son has done something inappropriate. While I will not be intimidated from expressing my own concerns about building a stronger, more tolerant, and inclusive community, I am here to implore you to take action against a member of your own board who continues this dangerous and malicious behavior. Most recently, Ms. McGraw posted on her publicly available Facebook page a post that included the following, quote, "The other male candidate who targeted my daughter on the internet also has his son and the other young men who know my daughter posting on social media in a blatant attempt to harass and intimidate my teenage daughter. You know, because teenage boys always take to social media to defend their daddies," unquote. There's only one candidate running for town board that has a teenage son. My son does not have a Facebook account, nor does he harass or intimidate people on social media. There is a reason there's no evidence of my son harassing or intimidating Denise Murphy McGraw's daughter, because it simply did not happen. Just like there is no evidence, at least none that we have seen, that the NPAC Facebook page administered by Denise Murphy McGraw was hacked. Regardless of politics, my husband and I hold our children to the highest standards and would not allow nor endorse anyone behaving in this manner. It is time we held our adults to the same standards. We have someone in a position of power within our community leveling false accusations against residents and community groups. As you know, false accusations on social media are very serious. They can lead to ruined reputations and sow distrust in our community. This behavior is troubling coming from anyone, and it is especially alarming coming from someone with access to the resources of town government at their disposal. It is past time for members of the town board and the Democratic Committee to address this behavior, if for no other reason than to preserve the dignity and reputation of the town board and the democratic process as a whole. I thank you in advance for addressing these issues.
Thank you. Yes, it is.
So I'd like to say that I agree with those two people that the political shit is just too much. It really is. We don't care. We care about our issues. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I'm here tonight because in one of the resolutions,
Could you state your name,
oh,
please,
sorry,
and address?
Carolina, I figured they all knew who I was by now. Carolina Worsbowski, 2576 Troy Road. So I'm here to address something, my favorite topic, the Holocaust Memorial and the traffic on Route 7. In tonight's resolutions is included a application for grant money for the police department. In that document, it clearly states that the police think Route 7 is a bad traffic location. There are a number of activities they're going to take on to patrol that area under this grant. I'm not opposed to the grant. I'm grateful that there is a Governor's Traffic Safety Council looking at these issues. I just want to understand, I now know why in my neighborhood listed under my assessment, it says busy road number 2 because it's busy road number 2 according to the police department. I am still going to push for no curb cut for that Holocaust Memorial. I'm going to do it every day. Every day that an accident shows up, you'll be getting a picture of that accident. There was one on Friday, started at 3:30. Somebody flipped over a motorcycle or something near the cemetery entrance, and traffic is literally backed up all the way to Latham. And the people who couldn't see over the hill where that Holocaust Memorial driveway is going to go pulled onto our road at 45, 50 miles an hour to try to get around the accident. They couldn't. It was a disaster. I have pictures of it. I'll send them to you. But basically, it's a bad spot. The police know it's a bad spot. Please do something to reroute the entrance to that Holocaust Memorial. Please do something to continue work like this to get the traffic on Route 7 improved, and consider the development activities on both Balltown Road, which is a disaster too. It's number 1 on the list. I don't want to assume that we're the worst. Just make sure you're doing smart development. That's really what I came here to say. And I want you to really seriously look at that traffic. We will be, as soon as it's possible, and Laura tells us, addressing that with the planning board and with New York State DOT, because it's a state highway. And we don't want it to get worse. The police obviously don't want it to get worse. And there's now statistics in their own report for the grant saying it's getting worse. And Dr. Lozman sat no further away from me than there and told me I had no idea what he was talking about. It was ridiculous and traffic was fine. So that's the point I wanted to make tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
Hello, I'm Jeff Corbin. I live at 1453 Via Del Mar. I'm also a member of Capital District Community Energy, which is a local citizens group working to try to bring community choice aggregation to Niskayuna and to the capital region. So I want to thank Supervisor Syed and the rest of the members of the town board for, first of all, inviting Ms. Gava to present. I'm really glad that you have welcomed me to present to this forum. I've seen various members of you at other forums. I've had conversations with you. CCA, outside of action in Congress and in Washington to have a federal action on behalf of climate change, is the most impactful thing that we can do in order to try to reduce our emissions of greenhouse gases. The power of the aggregate that Ms. Gava described in order to allow us to get affordable energy, but ones that we're able to control as far as its sources and reduce the carbon impact, is, again, the most impactful thing that you as a body and that we as residents are able to do. So I urge the town board to continue to consider this. Just when I talked to you in the past and when I've met with some of you earlier this year, most of my conversations about if we would have CCA, and then that moved to what I hoped would be when, but really now we're at the point that is not just when, but how soon. So I look forward to having Niskayuna being part of that very, in the near future, community choice aggregation program in the capital region. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak. And last call on privilege of the floor. If you would like to speak, do so now. Seeing no one left willing to speak, I'm going to close privilege of the floor. We're now going to move on to our public hearings. Will the clerk please call the first public hearing?
A public hearing regarding amending the town code to establish a community choice aggregate program.
Thank you. The first public hearing is now open. If you would like to speak during the first public hearing, please approach the lectern and state your name and address for the record.
Leslie Gold, 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. My main objection to the program is that it's an opt-out. If it were an opt-in, I probably wouldn't say a word. But being it's an opt-out, you're putting a burden on people. When a private entity changes your utility provider without express permission from you, it's called slamming. I don't think the government or this government authorized entity should be slamming its residents. And I suspect main reason that the opt-out figure is low is because it's an opt-out. And maybe people really aren't happy but don't realize they can. I also have a concern about the timing of all of this. If there's a 60-day education period once you adopt this, and then it's only 30 days to opt out, we could already have snowbirds go south. If you do it at the other end of the calendar, so that we've got people on extended vacations, they could miss their opportunity as well. And they may not want that change in service at all. So I really think that opt-out period needs to be longer, like 90 days. But better yet, just make it an opt-in period.
Thank you. The first public hearing is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
Good evening. My name is Jack Haggerty, Niskuna resident, 1060 Nicholas Avenue. I would like to speak in support of your doing the handshake agreement on community choice aggregation and proceeding along the path of the 7 steps to actually bring our community to that point. I also would like to speak in favor of having a 100% renewable option as one of the options available to the town residents under this aggregation program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The first public hearing is still open.
My name is Daniel Carlson. I'm at 2060 Grand Boulevard in Niskuna. I want to speak in support of the community choice aggregation and very encouraged that Niskuna is looking at this favorably. Encouraged that Jeff has been doing a lot of great education, and grateful for Ms. Gava's presentation tonight too. I'm pastor down at First Reformed Church in Schenectady, and our church has many residents who are of Niskuna. We recently wrote a letter to Mayor McCarthy, encouraging the city of Schenectady to also pursue this as an option, perhaps in conjunction with Niskuna and other municipalities, because we feel it's of utmost importance to care for this wonderful world to which we've been entrusted, in which we seek to pass on to future generations. So I speak in support of it. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. The first public hearing is still open if anyone else would like to speak. Last call on the first public hearing. If you would like to speak, do so now. Seeing no one left willing to speak, I'm going to close the first public hearing. Will the clerk please call the second public hearing?
A public hearing regarding local law for Metroplex Service District.
Thank you. Second public hearing is now open.
Just before we open up to the public, I just wanted to just talk about it a little bit. I know we talked about it at the agenda a little, but we have Ray Gillen from Metroplex here, and our Metroplex representative, Paul Webster, is also here. So they're the real experts. I just put together a quick summary. This is a proposed public hearing on the expansion of Metroplex boundaries in the town of Niskuna. We currently have areas like the Niskuna Commerce Park, Upper Union Street, Town Center Overlay District, Mohawk Commons, Mansion Square. Those areas are currently within the boundaries. The proposal is to simplify things and put the entire town of Metroplex boundaries into Metroplex boundaries. This is similar to Glenville, Rotterdam, and City of Schenectady. They have all just completely matched their boundaries. So I just to remind people, because maybe not everybody knows, Metroplex development is their mission is to enhance the long-term economic and social vitality, as well as overall quality of life in Schenectady County. It was established in 1998 as a public benefit corporation by the New York State Legislature, and it institutes a comprehensive coordinated program of economic development activities. So they've assisted the town in the past with developing and rebranding Niskuna Commerce Park, and attracting the businesses that we have there. Metroplex has also helped redevelopment on vacant St. James Square. They recruited ShopRite and other tenants and also paid to demolish Friendlies. More recently, Metroplex assisted the town in the development of the junkyard into a high-end apartment complex with plenty of public amenities. And they've also worked with us on the Upper Union Streetscape and the E1 expansion, and they were very helpful, provided a lot of technical assistance to us on the ODHEC project that the planning board was working through. They've also committed $250,000 in funds to the Knott Street Improvement Project, and they've been instrumental in working with us on zombie properties, and that's really why we're here tonight. So the reason the town is looking to expand the Metroplex boundaries is because of how helpfully they have been in their assistance of the zombie properties. Our biggest success recently was the 2 Cornelia Street, which they turned over to a contractor for rehabilitation to a single-family home. So Metroplex got that project going and assisted throughout the way. They have also helped with zombie properties on State Street, Balltown Road, Rosendale Road, Consol, Van Antwerp. Their continued assistance on these properties is invaluable. As the town begins to more aggressively remove blighted homes from our neighborhood, it's really important to be able to balance the staff time that myself and my department take on these zombie homes with the resources that Metroplex has to offer. So they also work jointly with the Land Bank, who is instrumental in putting 2 Cornelius back on the market. Land Bank is also currently working with our attorneys on an abandoned Van Antwerp property. Just so you guys understand how our goals align, the Land Bank is a non-for-profit entity whose goals are strengthening neighborhoods by returning vacant and abandoned property to productive use, strategically acquiring properties to reduce blight, promoting economic development, increasing property values, and thereby improving the quality of life for Capital District residents. These goals obviously very much align with what the town of Niskayuna is trying to do in our town as well. So we're proposing to be able to continue to work together as partners on these issues. Just a history, the last time the town expanded its Metroplex boundaries was in 2012, but we also reviewed and expanded them in 2008 and 2000. Their first establishment was in 1999. So this is the first step to hold a public hearing on the proposed district expansion. I don't have a very large map. I'm going to leave a couple of them up here in case anybody wants to speak on it, and then I'll put some in the back for anybody later. And I have a copy of the local law. And then if you guys have any questions, we have our experts here, so.
Thank you. Thanks, Laura. Ray Gillen, Chairman of Metroplex, Commissioner of Economic Development and Planning. Thank all the board members. Thank Laura. She's great to work with. We're really about smart growth in Niskayuna. Niskayuna is a great town, and we focus on already developed areas that need a little tender loving care. Niskayuna Commerce Park, those of you who are old like me, remember it was built by the federal government during the Korean War, and a military contractor ran the site for many years called Condec. So it was an established business site, and we've rebranded the site, as Laura said, redeveloped it as the Niskayuna Commerce Park, built an access road, built water and sewer, and put up the sign, and attracted some companies there, some nice tech companies, some nice tech jobs. We're smart growth again with St. James Square. It was a fun project. We worked with lots of members of the board. Former town planner Kathy Matern did a great job. Been a huge success, big turnaround. We used to go to meetings in Niskayuna and we just get shelled. What are you doing about St. James Square? You know, because it was literally empty. I mean, it was the only thing there was Starbucks. And what a turnaround that's been. And again, it's a great effort. Economic development's a team sport. So smart growth has really been happening there. Continuing our smart growth, we really love this Williams Auto Parts project. I know Laura was really excited because when she first came to town, she looked at the map and said, what is that big parcel down by the river? And we think it's going to be a great project. We helped with the E1 expansion. We're a partner in this Knott Street project. We're just trying to provide some funding to help any of the businesses in the Co-op Plaza who might want to upgrade or do their facades or make other accommodations during the project. We really are grateful to have Paul Webster on the board. We appreciate you appointing him. He's very active. He comes to all our meetings. He comes to your meetings. He comes to a lot more of your meetings than I do. I should probably come to more of them. So I'm very grateful for Paul's assistance. And as Laura said, this change here is really about zombie properties. People want to live in Niskayuna. So sometimes people buy houses and unfortunately they can't maintain them. They can't keep up with the payments. They all want to live here. And so some people fall into default, and we have a pretty serious zombie property problem in Niskuna because banks wind up taking charge of these parcels. They're not maintained, and they start to fall apart. And if you live next to one of these, it ruins your life. Go to Mohawk Road. It's ruining the life of the people on that road, on Van Antwerp.
Van Antwerp.
On Cornelius. You all know this. You all hear from these folks. And so we've been able to jump in with the land bank, but we need this change. This is really being driven by you all. You decide what what parts of the town you want to be a Metroplex. It's not for us to decide. But if we're able to expand the boundary, we can use Metroplex resources to help with these zombie properties. For example, our boundary hugs Union Street. Cornelius is not in the current boundary. We couldn't use any Metroplex money to fix Cornelius. Luckily, we figured it out with the land bank, and we got some state money. We got some settlement money from the Attorney General of New York State, and we were able to come together with a deal. I'm happy to announce that project. The dumpster's arriving tomorrow, and renovations are starting. The Van Antwerp property is in the Metroplex territory, just again by the vagaries of the current boundaries. So we're really looking to attack more of these properties, and sometimes the land bank has limited resources. Metroplex has additional resources that we can bring to bear to fix some of these homes. If you have a zombie property in the street, your property values go down 20, 30, 40%. It ruins your quality of life. It affects your family. It affects your kids. It affects your neighbors. And Niskuna is a beautiful town. It's strong. The neighborhoods are strong. The business districts are strong. We're about smart growth, and we're about fixing a few of these blighted properties and vacant properties and making them better, like we're doing on Cornelius, and we hope to do with Van Antwerp. We get great cooperation from everybody up here at Town Hall. We love coming up here with prospects. We look forward to working with you, however you want us to work with you. Thanks. Paul?
Just thank you, and I want to thank the supervisor and the board for renominating me for a second 5-year term on Metroplex. It's definitely an honor to serve our community. And as Ray said, our job at Metroplex is about smart growth. It's about enhancing the community through economic development. And just some of the other things that we've done here is, as we worked on the Oda Heck property, it's also being mindful of the wetlands that are right there and just talking and advising and restoring formerly non-taxable properties to the tax rolls throughout the county, which has been tremendous in terms of helping to preserve a lower tax base and not having as much responsibility back onto the town. But to be able to expand and do this would be great. There are a number of projects in town that we get asked to assist with, as Ray was saying, that we can't because we don't have the authority to do so here. So the public hearing today and the request from the town to do so would definitely be a definite enhancement. And I would be remiss to say that our other Niskuna resident on the Metroplex Development Authority, Neil Golub, is definitely an avid activist about the zombie properties around town. He drives and he comes to the meetings each month and he goes, what about this? What about this? What about this? And we absolutely need to get at them again to enhance and preserve the character of the town. And we'll take any questions.
Neil was my tag team partner on the Cornelius site, so thank you very much. I guess just to clarify, I mean, this really what drove this, as Ray said, was my focus on the zombie property issue. It has been what I have made a priority throughout my tenure on the town board that I think has been quite successful in a number of ways. But the one thing that I have continued to talk about and continued to try to address is the zombie properties. Some of them have been harder than others. It took me what feels like a lifetime to try to get the Balltown Union Street property rehabbed. But to be able to have this tool and to be able to work with the land bank folks and David and under Ray's leadership, this is really what I've been looking for all along is just somebody who is at a higher level who can partner with me and who can turn around these properties. I can tell you where each and every one of them are. I take it very, very seriously. I know what they look like. I know what's going on with them. I call up Ray all hours of the day or night and we talk about these properties. And so this is a critical next step, and to be able to really help these individual neighborhoods. As I always say, all we have is our homes. The greatest single thing of value we have is our home. And it's my job and all of ours up here as our elected officials to ensure and maintain the value of each and every one of your homes, no matter where you live. And that's why I take very seriously our conversations about whether it's Route 7 or whether it's Old Niskayuna or Rosendale Road, whatever it may very well be. So thank you for coming here tonight, and thank you for being willing to partner with us on this.
Thank you. And with that said, yeah, the public hearing's still open.
This is John Lennon, 1106 Glen Meadow Court, just since I'm here. I want to put a plug in for these guys. I think it's a wonderful vision to fix the zombie planets. In a prior life, I was on Mayor Stratton's transition team in Schenectady County, and I was also on the board of the Schenectady Economic Development Corporation. I worked with Ray and Jamie LaHutte at Metroplex. They're a wonderful group. They've got wonderful vision and resources and energy, and I think it's wonderful to have them helping our town improve. So I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie Gold, 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. And I'm not behind this. I have a lot of reservations. It comes from a number of things. One is history with a previous economic development leader in the county who disregarded our zoning on a regular basis, brought in a number of projects, some of which were swatted down. And the planning office never got to the planning board, others of which the planning board had to point out they really are inconsistent and no, we really don't want that commercial business in our residential neighborhood, et cetera. We have not had that. We've got wonderful leadership at present, but my concern is at some point, Ray's going to retire on us, and I don't know what kind of leadership we'll have then. I worry we'll have the same problems we had back then with inappropriate projects being brought in, with the would-be developer being told, oh, I can take care of this, I can get it through the town for you. And it was totally inappropriate. I do believe that there was legislation that passed by the state and signed by the governor that addressed zombie properties and gave responsibility to the lenders who have the properties. That should be aiding us. If there's a way to work it out so that we can so the town board could authorize individual properties as they fit the description of a zombie or a blighted property to then get assistance through Metroplex, I would not be opposed to that. That would make sense to me. But to put the whole town in Metroplex when the primary focus of Metroplex has always been, quote, economic development, which means commercial development, I just don't see it as being appropriate.
Thank you.
Carolina Rosbowski, 2576 Troy Road. I'm back. My favorite topic, second favorite topic of the night. So I do agree with Leslie to some degree. If there's a way when we change the law to limit it to zombie properties and dealing with that issue, that would be the best way to go. Because again, there are 2 or 3 properties. I can
Just
also
on Route
name
7,
Route
I
7,
know.
one I can see nearly up
Drives
on my
him
road.
crazy.
And I know what happened to those properties. I know there were elderly people who couldn't take care of them. It does happen. It has happened multiple places. I don't want to see those, but I don't want to see McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts either. So as
And
long
none
as
of
we
us
can
do. You
limit
know
that to appropriate for the residential neighborhood, that'd be.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you. And the second public hearing is still open if anyone else would like to speak. And last call on the second public hearing. If you would like to speak, do so now. Seeing no one left willing to speak, the second public hearing is now closed. Will the clerk now please call the third public hearing?
A public hearing regarding the proposed drainage district to the town of Niskayuna stormwater drainage system.
Thank you. The third public hearing is now open. If you would like to speak, please approach the lectern, state your name and address for the record. Okay. And last call on the third public hearing. If you would like to speak, do so now. Okay, seeing no one willing to speak for the third public hearing, I'm now going to close that hearing. Will the clerk please call the fourth public hearing?
A public hearing regarding the proposed water district extension to Town of Niskuna Consolidated Water District Number 1.
And the public hearing is now open. If you would like to speak during the public hearing, please approach the lectern and state your name and address for the record.
Leslie Gold, 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. Just so I can say something positive, I support all three of these special districts.
Oh, good.
I think they're to the benefit of the town.
Excellent. Thank you. If anyone else would like to speak, do so now. Seeing no one left willing to speak, I'm going to close this public hearing. And we're going to move on to the last public hearing. Will the clerk please call this?
A public hearing regarding the proposed sewer district extension to the Town of Niskuna Sewer District Number 6.
And the last public hearing is now open. If you would like to speak, please approach the lectern and state your name and address for the record. And last call on the last public hearing. If you would like to speak, do so now. Okay, seeing no one left willing to speak, I'm going to close the last public hearing. We're now going to move on to committee reports. We're going to begin with Councilwoman Weber.
Thank you, Ms. Supervisor. Before I begin my committee report, I feel the need to make a few comments about privilege of the floor. We have a First Amendment right in this country to come to privilege of the floor and speak about whatever we wish. But I would be remiss if I didn't express my dismay and disappointment about how political and personal some of the conversation at privilege of the floor has become. My strong preference, and it's only a strong preference because of the First Amendment, is that we keep political conversations and arguments outside of this government space. When I come in here, I am not a political person. When I come in here, it's to focus on government work. I'm a council member. I represent every single person in this town, just like everybody elected here represents every single person in this town. And I would sincerely appreciate the opportunity while I'm here as a council member to focus on the important work that we need to accomplish as board members of this town. Tonight we have community choice aggregation. We're talking about zombie properties and Metroplex. We're talking about going into a solar agreement with our county. We have staff members that need to focus on their jobs as well. And I'm finding some of the personal tenor of the comments, while certainly allowable under the First Amendment, to be a little bit of a distraction and from the focus of what needs to go on in this room, which needs to be government. I'm a stickler for the separation of government work and political work. And I'm going to give everybody my cell phone number, 518-878-6254. If anybody wants to comment to me about anything that is not a government matter, you can certainly comment to me about government matters at that cell phone as well. But if you want to talk to me about anything personal or political about anyone or anything, please call me on my personal time and keep this time for our government work. So thank you. With that, I will go into my community programs report. Summer is a busy time in our community programs. Our town camps are underway. Our pool has been very busy with swim lessons and people calling off. Our staff's been doing a great job keeping folks entertained and safe in our pool and our camps. And I want to especially commend our lifeguards for serving in the intense heat this past weekend. And I'd like to mention how proud I am of our swim team for raising funds for cystic fibrosis at their swim-a-thon last week, which is an annual tradition. I know that Denise will probably want to add some more information about that. Our second Saturday Farmers Market, co-sponsored by the town and the Niskuna Co-op, made its debut July 13th. It was well received and well attended. Some of the vendors sold out everything they brought with them to sell. Our plans are underway for the next farm market. The dates are August 10th and September 14th. Also coming up in September is the Fall Fun Run on September 21st at 5 p.m. We'll have our 5K, our 1 mile run, and our kids dash. Registration for Fall Rec Soccer is open,
and running through August 1st. After that date, kids will be placed on teams if there's room, and there's a late fee, so please register your kids for fall soccer in the next week. The intense heat we had last weekend led to the rescheduling of our annual art out, where local artists paint an Niskayuna scene at a location outside through the weekend. We didn't deem it safe for artists to be outside for extended periods of time last weekend, so the art out has been rescheduled for October 4th, 5th, and 6th. The senior center staff is planning a free dance party on August 16th at our recreation center on Aqueduct Road at 6:30. There will be mocktails and dance lessons and a lot of fun, so please come and join us for that. Our next community programs meeting will be August 6th at 3 o'clock in the Schaefer Room. Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks very much. We're now going to move on to Councilman Delarada.
Thank you, Supervisor and Councilwoman Weber. As you know, I chair the Economic Development and Historical Preservation Committee. On June 22nd, the Complete Streets Festival had a great day. There was about 250 people that showed up for that bike rodeo, picking up helmets and other safety gear, practicing, and also using the Capital District Transportation bus system and enjoying a day out of alternative modes of transportation. I do want to thank a couple of department heads for their great work on this. I know that Ray Smith and the highway crew did a great job for setting things up, and also Chief McManus and the police department for helping with everything in the bike rodeo. So thank you to both of you. It was a great help. The town, we heard the CAC and mega presentation tonight. We are appreciative of any public comments that generates, and we'll be taking everything into consideration as we look to move forward with that community choice aggregation legislation, possibly at our next meeting. We're also excited to be working on a Climate Start certification grant. This is something that is done to reduce the municipality's greenhouse gas emissions, and that'll increase our town's resiliency to climate change. And we are very proactive in that. I want to thank Ms. Robertson for her work on that. And I also want to thank somebody that we're going to be losing here very shortly. The planning department has a very good assistant planner by the name of Jeffrey Twitty. And he has, fortunately for Jeffrey, but unfortunately for the town, been accepted to Duke Law School. So he'll be leaving for North Carolina, I think sometime next week. That is going to leave a great hole in our planning department. But I know Ms. Robertson will be actively looking to fill that. I know I speak for everyone when I say that Mr. Twitty was a valuable asset. We do appreciate everything that he did. He came to all my committee meetings. He was very active, and it's going to be a difficult replacement. My next committee meeting is the first Friday of August. That is August 2nd at 8:15. As always, right here in the Schaefer Room, all are welcomed and encouraged to come. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to Councilwoman McGraw.
Thank you, Supervisor. As most folks know, I chair both the Public Works and the Highways and Public Facilities Committee. There's no busier time of year than this time of year, but I feel that I say this all year round. There's a lot going on if you've driven down River Road over by Blatnick Park. The splash pad is in its final days of coming together. I'm hopeful that it'll be before the end of summer, but everyone is working very hard on that. If anyone has driven down Route 7, and no one happier than Ray Gillen, the Avon Crest sign is moving along. It's when I drove by it, at about 6:45, there was a wall back there, so I was pretty happy to see that. The dog park upgrades that I've championed for the last few months have really come together very nicely. Thank you to Ray Smith and his team, the parks guys. They were out there this morning again, fixing up, doing some final things. One aspect of what we are trying to do to upgrade the dog park is to run a water line. It's a pretty hot and dusty place, and without access to water, it's less enjoyable for families and dog owners, I guess. So we're trying to work that line down a little further, that it would be a little more convenient for folks who use the dog park. But what's happening there so far, and what I looked at this morning, it really looks great. I'm very excited about it. The transfer station, our bathroom is coming together. I know these are the little things, but these are the things that improve the quality of life for folks who use our parks, use our public facilities, and use our transfer station. It wouldn't be summer if we weren't paving roads around here. There's an awful lot of roads that are getting prepped, that are getting paved. We're looking to do the Country Club neighborhood that we have been talking about for a while now. We're going to start that, hoping around August 1st, and that should help tremendously with not only the quality of the road, but this is another area where folks are concerned about speeding. Folks are concerned about not stopping at stop signs, and we think that some of the road redesign and some of the things that we'll be able to do over there will improve safety as well. Yard waste pickup is moving along quite well, and I already mentioned the dog park upgrades. I did want to address, and I'm sorry that they left, but one of their family members is still here, some of the things that were said earlier. One of the things is that Matt Ghetto got up and spoke at one of the meetings recently. We've had a long tradition here of department heads going outside with folks, department heads getting up and talking. Matt came to the podium, but he could have easily has gone outside. So that's upset people. I'm sorry, but I think sometimes now this is something that the board members have all talked about. If there are things that keep getting mentioned continually and the department head is sitting right there and they have different information for folks in the room, folks who are watching, folks who may read about it in the paper, they have an obligation to provide that. So I thank Matt for his willingness to be able to clarify whatever it may very well have been with the fire. I believe what I just heard before was that there's a community activist in town that posts things, and that was okay. That thing that I think was said was okay was a picture that was taken of my child when she was a minor. It was taken in secret, and it was posted online, and people were encouraged to look at it. I'm a little upset about that. I also am upset that perhaps a candidate for office has also then maybe liked pictures of my daughter. I think what I heard today was that I have a public Facebook page. That is not my public Facebook page. That's my personal Facebook page.
Can we discuss it after, maybe?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. We're now going to move on to Councilman McPartlin.
Thank you, Supervisor. I chair the Police and Public Safety Committee. We met on July 3rd. Operationally, we talked about updating the tow list for our town police officers and police department, Auto Solutions, Niskuna Tire, H&K. Those are three that are on our tow list. Operationally, we also talked about some of the changes in the laws that are coming with bail reform and discovery documents that are going to be necessary for our department to produce when they have court issues. So we've talked about some clerical staffing and the need for possible increase in clerical staffing to handle this anticipated increase in workload. We, in conjunction with that, talked about our phone in the lobby of the police department and the ability of that to get a hold of either an officer or someone at the UCC. The chief and I spent a little time down there, and we're trying to come up with some solution that's going to work for that particular means for our residents to get a hold of someone. They come now, they have to use a phone, it calls the UCC, and sometimes it works fine, other times it doesn't. Building wise, that was one of the issues we discussed. We also discussed the security system here at the town, security cameras and door locks. We're working on getting some upgrades there, hopefully. Citizen issues, we always talk about these at our meetings. This is usually a lengthy part of the committee meetings. Ruffner Road, Keys Avenue, Lexington Parkway, Wyoming Avenue, Aqueduct Road. Those are just some of the ones that we discussed at our meeting in July. Usually when residents bring these to our attention, we increase our patrols. We'll do speed and traffic surveys there to find out what the necessary means are for our officers to remediate speeding and/or other traffic problems. Community events. Yes, we did have the Complete Streets Festival over on Dexter. It was very well attended, very well attended. Thank you to Ray, Laura, the chief. Officer Jim Walsh was there, and he ran a little course for the kids with stop signs and made sure that they would stop at the stop signs properly. It was very well attended. Free helmets were given out to people. Great event, great location for the event, very well attended. Thank everyone for participating and helping out with that. Just some other community events, Color the Canal, that was 7/14, all went well there. We're having a food truck festival at Zenner Road Park on 9/15. That was discussed at our meeting. We didn't have any code issues. No one from the court was there. Fire department, the chief was there and discussed some address issues in certain locations in the town that we have to work out for 911. So things like that hopefully can get worked out. The school district has appointed the chief and the deputy chief to their safety committee. And our next meeting will be on August 6th at 8 a.m. here at Town Hall in the Schaefer Room.
Great, thank you very much. Now going to move on to the supervisor's report. I would like to comment on our inaugural farmers market that we held Saturday, July 13th. After a year of hard work, after I had initially proposed this idea a year ago, it is different in size and scope, but I actually think it's a better iteration than what I even thought it could have been. So I really have to thank everybody here at Town Hall, the co-op, Councilwoman Weber, most especially our market committee chair, Beth Greenwood. She took this on and she did a fabulous job. And it really was a true collaborative effort. I have to thank our highway department, Ray Smith, our police department, Chief McManus, our community programs department. Lori's not here, but her entire staff, Julie, Lori, Lisa Stevens, everyone pitched in. They put in so much time and effort. We were all there at 8:30 in the morning, some even earlier, helping to set up tents. And it really was a beautiful day. We couldn't have asked for better weather. Everyone was happy. They all got to come together in a real show of community. And that's really what Niskayuna is all about. It really was reflective of our town. And it was so nice to see everyone coming together and just really enjoying the day. So I really look forward to our next one. It's going to be in August. It's going to be August 10th. I think it's going to be our biggest one to date. I think we have the most vendors signed up for that one. So, and we might be adding some more as time goes along. So for anyone who's watching out there, if you would like to be a vendor, it's a great day for you to participate in. So just send one of the market committee members an email and we'll get you signed up. As far as a staffing or operational update, we are progressing well through 2 bargaining unit negotiations. We have one with our PBA that's underway. We also have another with our CSCA white collar unit. So we've had our initial meetings. We have some more meetings scheduled for August. And again, we're progressing well. So those are looking good so far. And it is now budget season. So budget season is not quite in full swing. We're just getting started. But we've provided our department heads with their budget request forms. We are ahead of schedule, so that's a good thing. We're going to have ample opportunity throughout August to meet with department heads, council members, and that's great. Before, we may have had 1 or 2 meetings. Now we can have several, so that's always helpful. And it's going to provide us ample opportunity before the tentative budget is due on September 30th. So the official budget calendar will be released before the month's end. We will have it in print here. We're also going to post it online. And hopefully we're also going to email blast that out. So there's going to be opportunity too for the public to give input. So starting everything early here is better for everybody, better for us, better for our residents, better for the town as a whole. So that concludes my supervisor's report. We're now going to move into our resolutions. And we're going to begin with Resolution 2019-201, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the application for a New York State Climate Smart Communities Grant.
Thank you. Can I get a second? I will second.
Second.
Nope. Give McPartlin a second on that one.
Yes.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-202, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to amend Resolution 2019-178.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, this was just a amendment to address the little bit of a price difference in the electric vehicle that the town is purchasing. I think it was about $900.
Yes, you're correct. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin. Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-203, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution awarding a contract for the construction of bathrooms at Aqueduct Park.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-204, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize modifications to the Town of Niskuna's purchasing policy.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'm going to second. Then I'm going to ask Paul Sebesta to come up to the podium because there was some late information about this. I just want to be clear what it is. My colleagues have all asked
Sure.
my opinion on this.
Sure. Yeah, what I emailed out today was just an explanation of that change to the exceptions. We have not really regularly been soliciting bids for the auditing services. And it really, I feel that, as I said in my email, that it should fall under that same insurance policy exception because of the time that's demanded in doing so. Also, there's a very limited number of auditing firms in the area, and if you can't continually go back to the 3 or 4 auditing firms every year and ask them to make a proposal, they eventually just stop responding. So you're just going to basically make the whole process futile when you do need to go out and get a real proposal and you're interested in changing something up. So over the course of time, we've used, my time, we've used about approximately 5 different auditing firms, and eventually they should be changed for various reasons, but just to do it annually as a exercise, I'm advising against.
Okay.
So is that in this document here?
It is.
What page is that, Paul?
Right on the first page,
First
on the
page.
exceptions. Yes.
Okay.
So it was
And
just
at
added.
your request, it can be done
Yeah.
whenever, if anyone.
By separate resolution.
Right.
Well, no, just verbal request. I
Okay.
can go and, I can do whatever. I'll do whatever. I don't think I need a resolution. If several members come forward and say, I think we should change, you should give quotes. That's all that can be accomplished. I don't need to.
Right, because we already bid out for our insurance quotes, so this
Right.
is essentially standardizing it for our auditing quotes as well.
Right. So that's really where I'm coming from, that not to, I guess, ruin the process of when we're serious about going out to bid, rather than to make it a routine, futile exercise, to really do it when we're serious about it and stay. Often you get 3-year proposals, you get reduced, I think they give more leniency when you get a multi-year proposal as opposed to an annual proposal. So anyway, does that answer your
Yes,
question?
thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Do we have any other comments or questions? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-205, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to make certain budgetary modifications.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-206, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize the sale of a surplus town vehicle.
Thank you. And I think that's actually sponsored by Councilman McPartlin. So I'm going to change that.
The resolution is correct.
Right.
Supervisor.
Right. Yeah, I was changing it
Yeah,
on the agenda. Yep.
Yep.
So can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, sponsored by Councilwoman Weber. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to employ additional employees in the town's Office of Community Programs.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
While I'm going to abstain from this resolution, I just want to explain what it is. A few weeks ago, we were informed by the county health department that we needed a second class of lifeguards at the town pool. All of these young people who are on here are now, as of most recently, 18 years old, and they have to be considered a head lifeguard. They have additional responsibilities, and more importantly, they took an afternoon or almost a whole day out of their days during a very busy time for them to get an additional training. They got 2 additional trainings in order to qualify this. Without these young people and without their willingness to take on this additional responsibility, quite frankly, we couldn't run the pool this summer. And for a few days there, Paul Svesta and I had a number of conversations where we just were not quite sure we were going to be able to pull it off. So that's exactly what this is. It's an additional title for folks that they went and earned by taking additional training, and they have additional responsibility because they are 18 years old now.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? With none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Abstain.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-208, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to certify the adjusted base proportions to be used as class tax shared for municipalities and school district levies.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-209, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to certify the current base proportions to be used as a class tax shared for municipal and school district levies.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-210, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize the supervisor to enter into an easement agreement.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-211, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to appoint a person in the Assessor's Department.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
This is a continuation of a conversation we began during the budget. We are very grateful to Amy Houlihan for her willingness to stay on and serve as an advisor to the department and continue with a project that we were selected by the state to carry out. And Amy is integral to that. And I'm just pleased that she'll be able to stay on and complete a project that I know was very important.
Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-212, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize the supervisor to enter into a utility credit purchase agreement with Schenectady County Solar Projects 2019 LLC.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? And if there are any questions, we have Amal Kapoor, who is here and with us tonight, who would be willing to answer any questions you may have.
I want to thank Amal for being here yet again. He spends as much time here in Town Hall as a lot of people who work here. So thank you very much for your continued guidance through this process. I know this has been a priority, not only for me, for Councilman Delarada, who's helped lead this as well. The ability to work with the county on this project and to continue it to move forward has been a collective effort by many people. I want to thank the town planner, Laura Robertson, who helped us in identifying the parcels, to making sure it is the right parcel, that it doesn't interfere with parkland, that we are able to do interesting and unique things. I had one, as we began this conversation at the county attorney's office, I had one and one only hope: we were able to plant wildflowers and pollinators like we have been able to here in the town. Thank you for accommodating that, in addition to so many things that you were able to accommodate. I know we always joke that we think we're special in Niskayuna, but we're special in Niskayuna. So thank you very much for making all the things that we needed to tweak this possible.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion or question? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-213, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution regarding reconciling the residential and commercial water and sewer bills for the second half of 2018.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-214, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving Consolidated Water District Number 1 Extension 170.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-215, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving Sewer District Number 6 Extension 124.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-216, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving Drainage District Number 35.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-217, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution regarding reconciliation of corporate utility rents for first quarter of 2019.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McGraw. Aye. Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-218, sponsored by Councilman McPartlin. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize the acceptance of grant monies for use by by Niskuna Town Police Department.
Thank you. I will second. Is there any discussion?
This is a yearly grant that we get from the state for traffic safety here in the town. Thank the chief, deputy chief, and his office for putting this together every year and making sure we get our $10,000+
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McGraw. Aye. Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-219, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the purchase of masonry supplies for the construction of a shared bathroom building.
Thank you. I will second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Last resolution, 2019-220, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution awarding a contract for the installation of fencing at Blackneck Park.
Thank you. I will second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McGraw. Aye. Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
Okay, now going to make a motion to adjourn. If I could have a second on that motion.
Second.
Oh, did I say that the last resolution passed?
Yeah.
If I didn't, it did. I'm sure everybody figured that out. Okay. So I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Councilman